The journey begins. 3 days later, just before dawn, a small group assembled at the edge of Ashvale. Demon had recovered enough to travel, though Lyra insisted on checking his wounds one final time before they left. "Mother hen," he teased as she fussed with his bandages. "Foolish king," she shot back, but her touch was gentle. Their party consisted of 5 people, Demon and Lyra, old Mara who refused to let her apprentice travel without a chaperone, and 2 of Ashvale's younger alphas who had pledged themselves to Demon's cause. It was a pathetically small force to reclaim a kingdom, but Demon assured them he had allies waiting in the capital, loyalists who had been forced underground but never stopped believing he would return. The first week of travel was surprisingly peaceful. They kept to small roads and avoided major towns, camping in forests and abandoned farms. Demon used the time to teach Lyra about the court, about the political landscape she was walking into, about the enemies they would face. "Kieran won't be alone," he explained one evening as they sat by the campfire. "He has the support of at least 3 major noble houses, all of whom benefit from the old laws. They'll fight to keep him in power. Because they profit from treating Omegas as property," Lyra said bitterly. "Exactly. The breeding houses make them wealthy. The forced bonding laws give them power over entire families." Demon's jaw clenched. "It's a system built on exploitation, and Kieran has made himself its champion. So we're not just fighting your brother. We're fighting an entire power structure." "Yes." He met her eyes across the flames. "Which is why I'll understand if you want to turn back. This is going to be brutal, Lyra. Political maneuvering, potential assassination attempts, a possible civil war. You could die." "A gilded cage," Lyra murmured. "Protected but not free. I prefer to think of it as. I'll come with you." The words hung in the air between them. Demon crossed to her side, his reflection appearing in the window glass next to hers. "Why?" he asked. "You barely know me. And the journey will be dangerous." Lyra turned to face him, violet eyes meeting silver. "Because you're right. I am in danger now. But more than that." She paused, searching for the right words. "Because in 4 days, you've shown me more respect than any alpha in this village has in 20 years. Because you asked instead of demanded. Because you're trying to change laws that have hurt people like me for centuries." She reached up to touch his face, feeling the scratch of stubble against her palm. "And because when I think about you leaving without me, something in my chest tears open." His hand covered hers, pressing it more firmly against his cheek. "The mate bond. Maybe. Or maybe I'm just a fool who's falling for a man I barely know." She smiled sadly. "Either way, I can't stay here anymore. This village stopped being home the moment you crashed into my life." "I'm sorry," Demon whispered. "For disrupting everything. For bringing danger to your door." "I'm not." And she meant it. "You said I have a gift for healing. Maybe it's time I used it for something bigger than treating cuts and colds. Maybe I can help you heal your kingdom." "You already are." He pulled her into his arms, and Lyra let herself melt against his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart beneath her cheek. "Every moment with you heals something I didn't know was broken." They stood like that for a long time, holding each other in the darkness while the sea whispered secrets beyond the window. Tomorrow they would begin preparations for the journey. Tomorrow they would start the dangerous process of reclaiming a throne. But tonight, they had this moment. This quiet, perfect moment before the storm. The journey. System, thanks to Lyra's remarkable healing gift. Demon's gaze softened when he looked at her. "In a few more days, I'll be strong enough to travel. And then we begin the long journey back to reclaim what's mine." "We?" Lyra's voice was quiet but firm. She'd been silent through most of the council meeting, letting Demon handle the politics. But this affected her directly. "You said we." "I did." He turned to face her fully, his expression open and honest. "I meant it when I said you're my mate, Lyra. I'm not leaving you behind." Not when Kieran already knows I'm alive, and by extension, knows about you. A chill ran down her spine. How would he know about me? Marcus. Demon gestured to the enforcer, who paled. He's in Kieran's employ. Why else would a simple village enforcer have access to the kind of poison used on me? Why else would he be so eager to claim you? Marcus lunged for the door, but 2 council members caught him. The struggle was brief. When they searched him, they found a communication crystal tucked in his pocket, expensive magical technology that only royalty and very wealthy merchants could afford. He's been reporting to someone, Thorne said, examining the crystal with disgust. Everything that happens in this village goes straight to Kieran. Demon's expression was grim. Which means my brother knows I'm here. Knows I'm alive. And knows that Lyra healed me. He squeezed her hand. You're in danger now. The only safe place for you is by my side. The Omega's choice. That night, after the council had taken Marcus away and posted guards around the cottage, Lyra stood at her window staring out at the dark sea. Behind her, she could hear Demon moving around the small space, his presence both comforting and overwhelming. You don't have to come with me, he said quietly. I won't force you, despite what I told the council. If you want to stay here, live your life in peace, I'll assign guards to protect you. You'll never want for anything. Called his power forth, burning silver in the air above his hand. By the time the sun reached its peak, even the most skeptical council member had to accept the truth. The Alpha King lived. And he was in their village. Your Majesty, Thorne said, his tone completely transformed from earlier. We had no idea. If we had known. You would have done what? Demon's voice was cold. Treated Lyra with respect? Recognized her right to make her own choices? Or would you still have tried to force her into a mating she didn't want? Thorne had the grace to look ashamed. The laws are meant to protect Omegas. By taking away their autonomy? By treating them as property to be claimed? Demon shook his head. Those laws were written by alphas who feared Omega strength. I've been working to overturn them for decades. Clearly, I haven't worked fast enough. The laws exist for a reason, Marcus said from his corner, his voice hoarse but defiant. Omegas need alpha protection. It's the natural order. The natural order, Demon said with dangerous calm, is whatever I say it is. I am your king. And I'm telling you now that any law forcing an Omega into an unwanted bond is hereby abolished. In this village and, God's willing, across my entire realm once I reclaim my throne. You're going to take back your kingdom? One council member asked. Of course. Demon's hand found Lyra's, lacing their fingers together. My brother committed treason. He tried to assassinate me, usurped my throne, and has spent the last 6 months undoing every progressive law I enacted. He's reopened the breeding houses, reinstated ownership rights over Omegas, and is currently negotiating with the southern warlords to expand his power. His jaw clenched. Kieran has turned my kingdom into exactly the kind of tyranny I spent centuries fighting against. And I will not allow it to continue. But you're injured, Thorne protested. Poisoned. How can you hope to? The poison is being purged from my weight. That made every alpha in the room straighten involuntarily. He rose from the bed with fluid grace, and despite wearing borrowed clothes and still bearing the marks of his ordeal, he suddenly looked every inch a king. And who are you to make such claims? Thorne demanded. Someone you should be very careful about threatening. Demon stepped forward, and the air in the room seemed to thicken with power. Lyra is under my protection. Anyone who attempts to claim her against her will answers to me. Marcus laughed. You're one alpha against an entire council. What can you possibly? He didn't finish the sentence. Demon moved, faster than thought, and suddenly Marcus was pinned against the wall, Demon's hand wrapped around his throat. I am not just an alpha, Demon said softly, his silver eyes blazing. And if you knew what was good for you, you would leave this village right now and never speak Lyra's name again. He's using compulsion, one of the council members gasped. Only royalty can. The man's eyes widened as realization struck. Others followed, shock rippling through the room as they truly looked at Demon for the first time. At the silver eyes that marked ancient bloodlines. At the way he held himself with unconscious authority. At the faint scar on his left wrist, the ceremonial mark given to every crowned Alpha King. Impossible, Thorn breathed. You're supposed to be dead. Clearly, rumors of my demise were greatly exaggerated. Demon released Marcus, letting him slump to the floor gasping. My name is Demon Shadowmere. I am the rightful Alpha King of the Northern Realm. And Lyra is my mate. The room erupted in chaos. The truth revealed. It took an hour for order to be restored. The council members argued, debated, and demanded proof. Demon provided it, intimate knowledge of royal protocols, the ability to read the ancient texts that only the royal family could decipher, and most damning of all, the royal sigil that appeared when he. The council's judgment. Dawn brought trouble in the form of 12 council members crowding into Lyra's small cottage, their faces ranging from concerned to openly hostile. Marcus stood among them, a bandage wrapped around his ribs where Demon had thrown him, his expression smug with anticipated victory. This is highly irregular, Elder Thorn announced, his alpha scent thick with disapproval. An unmated Omega cannot harbor a strange alpha in her home. It violates every law of decency and propriety. I was providing medical care, Lyra said calmly, though her heart raced. She stood in front of Demon, who remained seated on the bed, his silver eyes tracking every council member with predatory focus. He was dying. Would you have me let him perish to preserve appearances? You should have brought him to the village healer, Thorn countered. The village healer refused to treat him. Old Mara's voice cut through the room. She stood in the doorway, arms crossed, her weathered face set in stubborn lines. I told her to turn him away. An alpha that injured, that close to death, I wanted nothing to do with it. She met Thorn's gaze steadily. But the girl has a healer's heart. She couldn't walk away. And because she didn't, he lives. You should be thanking her, not interrogating her. The issue isn't her healing, Marcus interjected, his voice oily with false concern. It's what happened after. The impropriety of it. An unmated Omega alone with an Alpha for days. He smiled viciously. There's only one way to resolve this situation. Lyra must be claimed immediately to preserve her honor. And since I am the village enforcer, the responsibility falls to me. Several council members nodded. Lyra's blood turned to ice. No, she said firmly. You don't have a choice, Thorn said, not unkindly. This is how we protect you, girl. Marcus is a respected alpha. He'll provide for you, keep you safe. She has a protector already. Demon's voice was quiet, but it carried a mean to me. Show me now, then. The words left her mouth before her brain engaged. Without the bond. Without the marking. Show me. His eyes flared silver. Lyra. You said I'm your equal. Prove it. Not with destiny or fate or cosmic bonds. With choice. She stepped closer, eliminating the space between them. Choose me, Demon. And let me choose you back. The kiss that followed was nothing like the gentle dreams. It was fire and fury, desperation and desire, 300 years of loneliness meeting a lifetime of longing. Demon's hands tangled in her hair, tilting her head back as he claimed her mouth with a hunger that should have frightened her. Instead, it set her ablaze. She matched him kiss for kiss, touch for touch, her fingers digging into his shoulders as she poured every confused emotion into the connection between them. This was insane. He was a king. She was nobody. They'd known each other for 4 days. None of it made logical sense. But gods, it felt right. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Demon rested his forehead against hers. "I choose you," he whispered. "In this life and every life to come. I choose you, Lyra." "I choose you too," she breathed back. "Even though you're clearly insane and this is definitely going to end badly." He laughed, the sound rich and genuine. "Probably. But what's life without a little risk? Is that royal wisdom? No, that's 300 years of experience teaching me that the best things in life are worth fighting for." He kissed her again, softer this time, sweet instead of desperate. "And you, my fierce little healer, are worth fighting the entire world for." They went back inside hand in hand, and for the first time since the storm, Lyra felt something close to hope. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring. Didn't know how they would face the council, or Marcus's threats, or the massive task of reclaiming a stolen throne. But she knew that whatever came, they would face it together. "Throne, my people's trust, my life. I will take it all back. I will make him pay for every life lost in his coup, every law he's perverted, every innocent he's harmed." His voice dropped lower, intimate, deadly serious. "But I will not do it alone. I will not do it without you." "Why?" The question came out barely above a whisper. "Why does it have to be me?" "Because you're my mate. Because you're the strongest person I've ever met, with a gift for healing that borders on miraculous. Because when I look at you, I see not just my queen, but my equal." He cupped her face in both hands, his touch reverent. "Because I've lived for 300 years, Lyra. And in all that time I've never felt anything close to what I feel when you look at me. The mark of kings." They stood like that for a long moment, the night wind carrying the scent of salt and pine around them. Lyra's wolf whined in her chest, wanting to lean into his touch, to accept this bond he claimed existed between them. But her human mind, scarred by years of watching Omegas be claimed and controlled, resisted. "If we're mates," she said slowly, "why hasn't the bond completed? Old Mara told me that true mates can't resist the pull. That the marking happens almost immediately." Demon's expression darkened. "The poison. It's still in my system, dormant but present. The healers who created it designed it specifically to prevent bonding. Kieran wanted to make sure I could never produce an heir, even if I somehow survived." His jaw clenched. "Until I purge the last of it from my blood, I can't mark you without killing you." "So we're stuck," Lyra said, trying to ignore the flash of disappointment in her chest. "Unable to complete a bond that may not even be real." "Oh, it's real." Demon's thumb traced her lower lip, and heat pooled in Lyra's belly. "And it's torture. Every moment I'm near you and can't claim you properly. Every time you look at me with those violet eyes and I can't show you exactly what you. Too much, too fast, too impossible. I need air," she gasped, pulling free and stumbling toward the door. "Lyra, wait." But she was already outside, gulping down the cool night air, trying to make sense of a world that had tilted completely off its axis. Behind her, she heard Demon follow, felt his presence like warmth against her back. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I didn't mean to overwhelm you. But I won't lie to you, Lyra. Not about this. Not about us. There is no us." She turned to face him, wrapping her arms around herself. "You're a king. I'm a nobody. An orphaned Omega with no family, no status, nothing. This mate bond or whatever it is, it's a mistake." "It's not a mistake." Demon closed the distance between them, but didn't touch her. "It's the first thing that's made sense in my entire long, bloody existence. You saved my life, Lyra. Not just from the poison, but from the darkness I was drowning in. Every moment I lay dying, I felt you pulling me back. Your light. Your strength. Your stubborn refusal to let death take me. I would have done that for anyone. Perhaps. But you feel this too. This pull between us. This certainty that we were meant to find each other." His silver eyes searched hers. Tell me you don't feel it, and I'll walk away. I'll leave this village, reclaim my throne without you, and never darken your door again. But don't lie to me, Lyra. And don't lie to yourself. She wanted to lie. Wanted to deny everything he was saying and send him away. But standing there in the moonlight with his silver eyes burning into hers, she couldn't force the words out. What I feel doesn't matter, she whispered instead. Your brother tried to kill you. He has your crown, your throne, your entire kingdom. You need to focus on that, not on some random Omega who happened to find you in a storm. You're not random. And I am focused. He stepped closer, and this time when he reached for her, she didn't pull away. Kieran took everything from me, my. His eyes opened, glowing brighter than before. And when he spoke, his voice carried the weight of ancient power. I am Demon Shadowmere, first of my name, Alpha King of the Northern Realm. Or at least, I was. Before my brother decided he preferred my crown to my company. The world seemed to stop. The Alpha King. The ruler who had vanished 6 months ago, presumed dead in a hunting accident. Except it hadn't been an accident at all. Your brother tried to kill you, Lyra breathed. He succeeded, for all practical purposes. I was dead, Lyra. My heart stopped beating for 3 full minutes while the poison burned through my veins. But something, he reached for her hand, lacing their fingers together, something pulled me back. A golden thread in the darkness. A voice calling my name. Your voice. That's impossible. I didn't even know you existed. And yet, here we are. His grip tightened. The mate bond doesn't care about logic or possibility. It simply is. You are mine, Lyra. And I am yours. We have been from the moment you were born, even if we only just met. Lyra pulled her hand away, her mind reeling. You're saying we're mates? That some cosmic force decided we belong together? I'm saying I felt you healing me from inside my own death. I'm saying I've dreamed of you for 6 months while I floated in the space between life and death. I'm saying that when Marcus touched you, every instinct I possess screamed to rip him apart. Demon sat up despite her protests, catching both her hands in his. I'm saying that for the first time in 300 years, I want to live again. Because of you. 300 years? Lyra's voice cracked. You're over 3 centuries old? Give or take a decade. It's hard to keep track after the 1st century. He smiled, and it transformed his face from handsome to devastating. Alphas of royal blood age very slowly. It's both a blessing and a curse. Lyra's mind spun. A mate bond. The Alpha King. 300 years. It was. Tell them, Demon interrupted, his voice soft but carrying absolute authority, that if they wish to discuss Lyra's living arrangements, they may take it up with me. And they should come prepared. Marcus fled. The moment the door slammed behind him, Demon swayed. Lyra caught him before he fell, helping him back to the bed. That was foolish, she scolded, checking his bandages. You could have torn yourself open. He was hurting you. Demon's silver eyes held hers. I would tear myself apart before I let anyone hurt you. You don't even know me. Don't I? His hand came up to cup her cheek, and Lyra's breath caught at the gentleness of the gesture. I've been dreaming of you for 3 days. Running through gardens with you. Holding you in my arms while you laugh at something I said. Waking beside you in a bed made of silk and sunlight. His thumb traced her cheekbone. Tell me, Lyra. Have you been dreaming too? She wanted to deny it. Wanted to pull away from this impossible connection that had formed between them. But those silver eyes held her captive, and the truth spilled out before she could stop it. Yes. Every time I close my eyes, I see a life I've never lived. With you. The royal secret. That night, fever took Demon again. But this time, Lyra was prepared. She mixed stronger medicines, used her healing gift more freely now that old Mara knew her secret. But as she worked, Demon began to speak, his voice distant, lost in fever dreams. They betrayed me, he muttered, thrashing against the blankets. My own blood. My own brother. Kieran, why? Why did you do it? Lyra's hand stilled. Kieran. She knew that name. Everyone in the realm knew that name. The poison was supposed to be quick, Demon continued, his words slurring together. But you wanted me to suffer, didn't you? Wanted me to feel every betrayal, every wound. Wanted me to know it was you who took everything. Demon, Lyra whispered, her heart pounding. Who are you? Really? His eyes. An alpha? In her cottage? In her bed? He needed help. Lyra stepped between Marcus and Demon, her heart racing. He was injured. He's a stranger. An alpha. And you brought him into your home alone? Marcus moved closer, his eyes glinting with malicious satisfaction. Do you know what the council will say? What they'll assume? I don't care what they assume. I did what any decent person would do. Decent? Marcus laughed, the sound ugly. You're an unmated Omega harboring a strange alpha. There's only one conclusion to draw. He grabbed her wrist, his grip bruising. And only one way to fix this shame you brought upon yourself. You'll mate with me. Today. And we'll tell the council the stranger forced himself on you before I killed him. Let her go. Demon's voice cut through the room like a blade. He was on his feet, impossibly, given his injuries, and the temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. His silver eyes blazed with a light that made Marcus's 2 guards step back involuntarily. This doesn't concern you, stranger, Marcus snarled, but Lyra could smell his fear beneath the bravado. Everything concerning her concerns me. Demon moved with fluid grace despite his wounds, placing himself before Lyra. Release her, or I will remove your arm. Marcus laughed, but it sounded forced. Big words for a half-dead man. What happened next occurred too fast for Lyra's eyes to follow. One moment Marcus was gripping her wrist, the next he was flying across the room, slamming into the wall with a sickening crack. Demon stood where Marcus had been, his hand still extended, not a single wound reopened despite the violence of his movement. The 2 guards drew their weapons, but Demon merely looked at them. Just looked. Whatever they saw in his eyes made them drop their swords and flee. Marcus scrambled up, his face pale with shock and fury. You'll regret this, he spat, backing toward the door. Both of you. The council will hear of this. And when they do. Fever, and fighting the strange dreams that came whenever she dozed off. In those dreams, she ran through a palace of white stone and golden sunlight. She wore silk instead of wool, and her hand was clasped in his as they walked through gardens that smelled of jasmine and roses. He smiled at her, really smiled, and called her by a name she didn't recognize. My queen, he would say. My heart. She would wake gasping, her chest tight with longing for a life she'd never lived. On the 4th day, he finally woke properly. His silver eyes were clear now, focused, and devastatingly intelligent. He studied her face for a long moment before speaking. You saved me. His voice was deep, rough from disuse, and carried an accent that marked him as northern nobility. You were dying in the mud. I couldn't just leave you there. Most would have. He tried to sit up, winced, and fell back against the pillows. Most should have. Do you know what I am? An alpha. Lyra kept her tone neutral, professional. One who was tortured and poisoned and left for dead. Beyond that, it's none of my business. Something flickered in his eyes, surprise, perhaps, or respect. What's your name? Lyra. And yours? He hesitated, and she saw him weighing truth against necessity. Demon. The name sent a shiver down her spine. It meant something, though she couldn't place what. Well, Demon, you're lucky to be alive. That poison should have killed you. It was designed to kill me. His jaw tightened. Specifically me. Before Lyra could process that, the door burst open. Marcus strode in, flanked by 2 village guards, his alpha scent thick with aggression and territorial rage. The Enforcer's Challenge. Marcus was the village enforcer, a brutish alpha who had been trying to claim Lyra as his mate for 2 years. She had refused him repeatedly, which only seemed to fuel his obsession. What is this? Marcus's lip curled as he took in Demon lying in Lyra's bed. The little Omega has been hiding. Her muscles screamed with exhaustion, and Mara was having fits. Have you lost your mind? That's an alpha. Do you know what the village council will do when they find out? Then we won't tell them. Lyra was already working, stripping away his torn, mud-soaked clothes to assess his injuries. What she found made her stomach turn. Deep claw marks across his chest, a stab wound in his side that should have been fatal, and burns, deliberate burns in patterns she recognized as torture marks. But worse than the physical wounds were the black veins spreading from a puncture near his heart. Poison. And not just any poison, this was wolfsbane mixed with something else, something dark and magical that pulsed with malevolent energy. He's going to die, Mara whispered, her weathered face pale. That poison. I've never seen anything like it. No. Lyra's hands moved with steady purpose, gathering herbs, mixing poultices. I won't let him. She worked through the night while the storm raged outside. She cleaned his wounds, packed them with healing herbs, and forced bitter antidotes past his cracked lips. And as dawn broke gray and cold over the sea, she did something she had sworn never to do, she used her gift. Old Mara had warned her to keep it secret. Omegas with healing magic were too valuable, too vulnerable. They were taken, owned, used until there was nothing left. But watching this stranger's chest barely rise and fall, feeling that inexplicable connection pulling at her soul, Lyra couldn't hold back. She placed her hands over his heart and let the warmth flow from her core. It poured through her palms like liquid sunlight, golden and pure, seeking out the darkness in his veins. The poison fought back, burning, resisting, but Lyra gritted her teeth and pushed harder. The stranger's eyes flew open. Silver met violet, and the world tilted on its axis. Dangerous dreams. He slept for 3 days. Lyra barely left his side, changing his bandages, monitoring his. The storm's gift. The storm hit Ashvale like the fury of forgotten gods. Rain lashed against wooden shutters, and wind screamed through narrow village streets, carrying with it the salt-sharp scent of the angry sea. Lyra pressed her hand against the cold window glass, watching lightning split the black sky into jagged fragments of white light. Something felt wrong tonight. Not just the storm, but something deeper, something that made her wolf stir restlessly beneath her skin. Get away from that window, girl, old Mara croaked from her rocking chair by the fire. Storms like this bring nothing but trouble. Lyra didn't move. Her unusual violet eyes tracked movement at the edge of the cliff path, a dark shape stumbling, falling, crawling through the mud. There's someone out there. Let them be. Anyone fool enough to be out in this deserves what they get. But Lyra was already grabbing her cloak, ignoring Mara's protests. She had been an orphan herself once, left to die in a winter storm before the old healer found her. She would not let another soul perish if she could help it. The wind nearly knocked her off her feet the moment she stepped outside. Rain soaked through her cloak in seconds, but she pushed forward, following that inexplicable pull in her chest toward the cliff's edge. She found him half buried in mud, his body broken and bleeding. Lightning flashed, and for just a moment, she saw his face, strong, angular, beautiful even in its battered state. But it was his eyes that stopped her heart. When they flickered open, they glowed with an inner silver light that no human possessed. Alpha. Every instinct screamed at her to run. Alphas meant danger, especially for an unmated Omega like herself. But something stronger than instinct held her there. Something that whispered this was meant to be. The healer's gamble. Getting him back to the cottage nearly killed her. He was massive, easily twice her weight, and barely conscious. By the time she dragged him through,